Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call the governing board meeting of April 26, 2016 to order. We will now proceed to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Christopher Figueroa, a student at Paradise Valley.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Figueroa. Student Leadership Report, South Mountain Community College.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Dr. Harper Marinick, the Chancellor's Executive Committee, and guests. My name is Adelina Almanza, and I'm the Chair of Student Governance at South Mountain Community College. I'll be graduating next week, actually, on May 6th, and I have been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to choose between two schools, NAU and U of A.
Where are you going?
I have to. So both of them are really good for my major, but I guess the only thing holding me back is which one is gonna cost less. I have to look at the expenses, so it could be easier on my parents and on myself.
Well, congratulations to you. We're very proud of you.
My name is Sierra Heeman. I am the co-chair of student government, and I as well will be graduating in this May. And then I will be transferring to U of A with my major in molecular and cellular biology with a minor in either linguistics or math.
Wow. Congratulations.
My name is Soraya Mena. I am the co-public relations of the Student Governance Board. I will be graduating over the summer and plan on going to the University of Arizona.
Congratulations again.
My name is Santo. I'm the Senator of Student Governance. I was accepted to NAU and I will transfer over there in August, and my major is International Hospitality Management.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Hi, my name is Gideon Winyara, and I'm the head public relations of student government. And my major is in computer science, and I'll be transferring to ASU in December.
Congratulations.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Herrera. I am a senator in student governance, and my major is business entrepreneurship, and I will be transferring to ASU this fall.
Congratulations.
Good evening. My name is Andy Ortiz. I am treasurer for student governance, and my major is biomedical engineering, and I will be transferring to ASU in the fall.
Congratulations.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patty Santillanes Soto. I am graduating in May, and I will be transferring over to ASU to major in social work.
Congratulations to all of you. That's pretty extraordinary. It's pretty extraordinary transfers. I'm really, really impressed. I think we all are. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a list of our campus clubs that we have at our college. We currently have 19 active clubs. And now I'm going to speak a little bit about what a couple of what our clubs are doing. Our DECA club just recently went to Washington, D.C. To go to a conference. And what they actually had to do to go to that conference is they had to go to the state conference, and do well in that conference in order to go to Washington, D.C. So they went and they did pretty well, and they actually, one of the 7 students that went actually placed as one of the finalists at that conference. So they did pretty well. And we also have the Political Action Committee Club. also known as the PAC Club. What they've been doing is they've been hosting campus talks in different areas on our college, and they've just invited students to attend and basically speak about whatever topic they might like to speak about, whether it be campus issues, worldwide issues. Since this is a presidential election year, they have been focusing a little bit more on politics, the different candidates and different policies that they may have. And we also have the STEP Club, which is kind of an offspring off of our TRIO program. The STEP program stands for the Students Transfer with Educational Preparation. And what they've been doing is we've been going to campus tours like ASU, NAU, U of A, GCU, just to give students an idea of the campus of where they might want to transfer over to. They've also had they've been going to plays at the ASU Gamage, like they just recently went to the 42nd Street, and those are types of cultural events that they have over there. And they actually just recently had a lip sync battle with the Male Empowerment Network at our Spring Festival, which I will get to more into later. So these are some of our more formal campus events. We have an annual women's luncheon and an annual men's luncheon. The men's luncheon is held in the fall, and then the women's luncheon is held in the spring. And what we do with these luncheons is we try to incorporate members of our community who we feel have been trying to make a difference and trying to change our community for the better. And for the men luncheon, we had a Phoenix Police Department officer. His name is Memo Arubla. He helped fund the Beat Street AZ program, which is a student program for students who are teenagers who are looking to have a different thing to do, a different hobby, who might be more into the hip-hop scene. They have breakdancing classes, and if you want to rap, you can rap as well. If you're a singer, you can sing. There's also, if you would like to think about becoming a producer, they have the different, I don't know what they're called, but but they have those. And so he was actually the keynote speaker for the men's luncheon. And for the women's luncheon, Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick was our keynote speaker, and we, again, thank you very much for going. And those two events are for our students to actually engage with our community members, so they don't just see the same faces that they see on campus already. But since we invite community members for the luncheons, what we did for the International Women's Day is we decided to recognize the women on campus, but not just employees or instructors. We decided to also include students because sometimes students don't feel as recognized as maybe they should feel. And so we just decided to have kind of like an art gallery going on, and we made boards for each instructor or employee and student. And what we did as well is if you wanted to attend the events, you had to donate a monetary amount of your choice, and all the proceeds went to the Sojourner Center, which is a shelter for women and children who have been victims of domestic violence. So we did that, and that was for International Women's Day. And we also had a resource fair, which was for students that were high school students. And we actually had Representative Reginald Boulding attend, and he spoke to the high school students, and we also had resources available. We had different resource tables available for them as well, and they learned a lot more about the campus, and we gave them campus tours. So that was a resource fair. And these are some of our more informal events. We have the annual Cougar Day, which is sponsored by Student Life, Student Governance, and the Cougar Ambassadors. The Cougar Ambassadors hold campus tours for high school students. This is a high school oriented event as well. And what we do, this is a little more fun because there's DJs, there's entertainment. We actually had South Mountain High School come and their step team performed. And Beat Street AZ as well, they came, they had a little performance, a dance as well. And we also have resources to show the high school students as well. For Welcome Week, we do Welcome Week every semester, the first week of each semester. And what we do is we have different activities, or we give away food. Like sometimes we give away like donuts, or sometimes we try to be a little bit more healthier and we give out bagels. And we also have like games, and we also have these Ask Me shirts on that the Cougar Ambassadors and Student Life and student leadership in general wears. And if students don't really know how to get to class or where anything's at, they can ask us, hence the Ask Me shirts, and we kind of escort them to class. We also have the Spring Festival. And if you see the picture, Adelina and I are in that picture. We won the lip sync battle against the Male Empowerment Network, first annual lip sync battle champs. We were the Spice Girls in that picture. So, yeah, and it was a lot of fun. We got a lot of students to be engaged. We actually had a dunk tank and an obstacle course. We had 6 instructors and employees on campus get in the dunk tank and got dunked. So it was a lot of fun, including Buddy Cheeks. And and the last event is the Veterans Day flag raising that the Circle of Nations helped sponsor. And what they did is they invited veterans that were Navajo, and they conducted the flag raising, and that coincided with the Native American Heritage Month and the Veterans Day.
Okay. The leadership training on campus, we have multiple sources for that. And not just for leadership, like people in clubs, but also for our students in general. And 3 of the most important ones are leadership, which is in the summer, the 1-day retreat, and the 3-day retreat. These leadership programs they help build character. What we do in the classroom is a lot of academics, reading books, and we gain that knowledge. But when we interact with one another, it builds character and it helps you grow communication-wise. These leadership opportunities have helped us build bonds with not only our peers, but advisors. And at least for me, I went to leadership last summer, and I still keep in contact with all of them. And not just personally, but academically. If I need help with a project or I need something, they're always there. More specifically on campus, we have college committees. We have the Learning Council, Student Development Council, Shared Governance Council, and Organizational Development and Technology Council. The Learning Council discusses teaching methods and how our professors can modify their classrooms to help our students. The OENT Council, they discuss the innovation of the school physically while staying within the school's budget. The Student Development Council discusses the student recruitment, enrollment, development, and engagement. And the Shared Governance is kind of like the big dogs on campus. All of these councils, they propose their proposals to shared governance, and they have like the last say-so in it. And then community outreach. There are a lot of volunteer opportunities offered at South. A lot of them, our advisors take us there and they stay with us. But we also do have other forms of it. One of the main ones and the most impressive ones is Gabriel's Food Pantry. It's a pantry on campus where students can come if they forgot their money or they couldn't afford it that day, and they can come and get food for that day. We serve 20 students per day on average, 400 students a month, and 2,800 a year. Making this PowerPoint has been a great opportunity to see how much we have grown, because Gabriel's Food Pantry is something that we do out of our hearts. We don't really recognize it. We do it from donations, and when we had to put this PowerPoint together, we realized what an impact it has done for the school. We also do St. Mary's Food Bank, where we feed 4,000 692 people a year, and per month we feed 360 families. And we also go to the Andre House in St. Vincent de Paul, where we serve 400 plates per visit. One of the things that has been a huge success this year is connecting our students with our faculty. And with your permission, President Gutierrez, we would like to show a video of what that looks like. Gideon, can you stand up real quick? Gideon was the one that composed this. This video that you're about to see has been a recording from multiple students on our campus, and our advisors, our president, they took the time out to come and not just talk to us, but like enjoy ourselves and actually have a conversation.
One question, are we going to see President Olson do
Yeah.
the nay-nay?
Yeah.
She's doing the nay-nay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
It's loading. Please.
You already know it is. Silent talk, silent talk, silent talk. Go and do it for me. Now watch me whip, now watch me nay nay. Now watch me whip, whip, watch me nay nay. Now watch me whip, watch me nay nay. Now watch me whip, whip, watch me nay nay. Now watch me, watch me, watch me, watch me, watch me. Watch me, ooh, 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 okay, ooh, watch me, watch me, ooh, watch me, watch me, you do, watch me, ooh, okay, ooh, do the stanky leg, 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 do the stanky leg. Now break your legs, 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 break your legs. Break your leg, break the knob, and break your leg, break your leg. Now I mean bop, 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 bop. Now watch me whip, now watch me nay nay. Now watch me whip, whip, watch me nay nay. Now watch me whip, watch me nay nay. Now watch me whip, whip.
This video happened fairly early on during the year, and what this created and what it has continued to create is a deeper connection with our faculty and our students. Because student governance is here to report on the concerns of the students. But when you have a one-on-one chance to talk to our president or our secretaries, the people that are in position to do something, it's voiced better. We can say a lot, but as a whole, we're louder that way. Thank you.
Thank all of you. That was a pretty wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you. You're all going on to some pretty extraordinary educational experiences, and so you've all shown that you've made it here. You're going to make it there. Congratulations. Thank you. College reports. Mesa Community College.
Yes, President Gutierrez, Governor Board members, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, and guests. Our student PTK chapter, Omicron Beta, just returned from a national convention. They really represented Mesa and Maricopa College as well. They have won a lot of awards. I'd like to invite a longtime outstanding advisor, Dwayne Oaks, to lead the student to share with you the wonderful things they accomplished this past year.
Thank you. President Gutierrez, members of the board, and Dr. Harper-Marinick. Members of CEC and guests, my name is Dwayne Oaks. I'm a faculty member at Mesa Community College. I've been there for a few years, and it's my pleasure to introduce our student leaders that are here tonight. Many of them are in class, so we have a very large board. We have 15 officers, and we just elected our 15 members of a new transitional team, so we have 30 officers in Phi Theta Kappa. It's my pleasure to introduce our three of our students today, and I'll have them actually introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Casey Campbell. I am currently the Omicron Beta Chapter's Vice President of the Southern and Dobson campus. I also just recently completed my year term as the Arizona Regional President for Phi Theta Kappa, and I was an international candidate finalist for International Office of Vice President of Division 4.
I'm gonna set these down real quick. My name is Sean West. I am the current Public Relations Officer at Mesa Community College for our Phi Theta Kappa chapter, and I just finished my term as the Arizona Region Chief Recruitment and Development Officer.
My name is Jared Carlson. I'm part of the new transitional officer team, so I'll be in next semester.
We have a presentation for you, kind of recapping all of the accomplishments of our Phi Theta Kappa chapter at Mesa Community College. We are the Omicron Beta chapter, and we have a lot to present to you today. Phi Theta Kappa is recognized by the American Association of Community Colleges as the official honor society of two-year colleges.
Phi Theta Kappa, as an honor society, we're built on 4 hallmarks, each of which are listed on here. Scholarship, first and foremost, the endeavor to learn, leadership, service, and fellowship.
As Dr. Pan stated, we actually just got back from our international convention in Washington, D.C., National Harbor, Maryland, for the 2016 Nerd Nation International Convention.
So what we're going to do is just briefly go over with you some of the awards and some of the recognition that we walked away with. And first and foremost, we want to recognize our members who contribute so much. We have a 15 officer team at Mesa Community College, in addition to nearly 58, I believe it is, coordinators, and then hundreds of more members that all participate in our projects and assist us in accomplishing the endeavors that we set out. And so first and foremost, Isaac Ballesteros. He was recognized on an international level as a distinguished chapter member. Essentially what will happen is every chapter, and there are 1,200 across the world, will submit one or two submissions for their members and what they've done and how they've contributed to the chapter and to the society as a whole. And out of nearly 2,400 applicants, Isaac was selected as one of the top 30 chapter members, and he has contributed immensely to our in representing us in our student government at Mesa Community College. He actually wanted to become an officer last year, but unfortunately did not quite make that in, and he stuck around and served as a member. He has been a phenomenal example of what one person can actually do.
Each chapter also gets to be represented by 2 most distinguished chapter officers, and with me here today is Sean West, who was recognized on the international level as one of the top 30 international distinguished chapter officers. And then also our chapter president was recognized on the regional level as Hall of Honor distinguished chapter officer.
As I mentioned, there are 1,200 chapters spread across the world that are members of, or that are chapters of Phi Theta Kappa. And each chapter also gets the opportunity to submit, or more so the advisors, thank you, Dwayne, take the time and they come together and they submit how the team has worked together throughout that year. And they submitted a hallmark, and it was recognized, or we were recognized, our officer team were recognized as one of the top 30 officer teams out of those 1,200 chapters that we mentioned. And that was both on a regional and an international level.
In addition to the awards being submitted by our advisors, students are also able to submit essays, essentially is what they are, as Hallmark Awards for our advisors to recognize them. Jennifer Wood is one of our advisors from the Red Mountain campus of Mesa Community College, and she won both regionally and internationally for a new Paragon Advisor Award. And those are for advisors who have served 4 years or less as a chapter advisor. And she's done amazing things. She's been very dedicated, and we love her very much.
Amen to that. This year, they actually rolled out a new award. Just as much as students want or may need to be recognized, advisors contribute a substantial amount of time, whether paid or unpaid, to the chapter, and most importantly to us as individual students. Our chapter, again, as I said, is very large, and so we have several advisors. Each of them offer their own, have their own roles within the chapter, and they fulfill them very well. And so this year, Phi Theta Kappa rolled out with the Advisor Team Award, much like the Distinguished Officer Team that we mentioned. The Advisor Team Award is an award an essay that we will write on behalf of our advisors on what they do, how they function, and how they work together cohesively as a team. And we will submit that to Phi Theta Kappa. And out of those 1,200 applicants, our advisor team was thankfully recognized as one of the top 30 teams across the world. So a big shout out to our advisors and all the other advisors for Phi Theta Kappa that may be in the room.
As I mentioned earlier, I was one of the International Division IV candidates. I was actually named one of the finalists. Because I was involved with Phi Theta Kappa and I have been a chapter officer now, this is my second year, I completed my year as the regional president. My involvement has definitely changed the way that I look at the world and changed my pathway and my major, actually. And when I was selected as one of the finalists, I also received a $500 scholarship for giving a 3-minute speech about animal rights and who's responsible in front of over 3,800 people. And this is nothing compared to that. And then also I had an amazing campaign manager. Her name's Kinsey No. She's one of my fellow chapter officers, and she was also recognized internationally and was given a certificate of completion for her service. And you can see some of my fellow chapter officers. They're dressed a little crazy, and it was a lot of fun. It was an amazing experience and something that I absolutely love. And as regional president, outgoing regional president, I was very happy that the person who did win as a Division IV international vice president is an Arizona student from Coconino Community College in the north. So that made me very proud as the Arizona region president. Someone from my region ended up taking the title. And I am very excited for the things that we have to come for the next year.
All right, so to the real nitty-gritty. We've talked a lot about the things that we won, but we want to tell you a little bit about what we did, because that's the most important part, in my opinion. The growth that we experienced from the projects that we've engaged in. These awards, to be honest, they mean nothing to me personally. They're just fancy to look at, but I consider them clutter. What I consider the greatest reward is the experiences that I've had to be able to learn and grow through projects with Phi Theta Kappa. And so I mentioned that I'm the current public relations officer, but last semester I served as the college project officer. Phi Theta Kappa has encouraged every chapter to engage in 2 main projects. The first being a college-based project where you would meet with administration, and Dr. Penn has met with us for several years. Thank you, Dr. Penn. And we will discuss needs on the campus, missions that the college has recently adopted, or things that us as students can do to rally behind that. And so as we sat down last year with our administration, we asked the question, what can we do to help? And we came across some information that we were working on becoming a Hispanic serving institution, that our direct population is mostly Hispanic. And so we began to dive into that and see what we could do to help out. And so what we ended up doing was working with our college's Latino Student Success Committee, which is composed of faculty, staff, and other administrators. And we ultimately created an 8-part educational workshop series designed to engage students in cultural competency training, as we assessed with administrators what we can do or what was needed to help us become the school that we needed to be and to directly take care of our immediate community. Cultural competencies was a large thing for the students that were there, that by learning cultural competencies, we would become a more inclusive campus and thereby benefit more students. And so we had several workshop presenters come out, And ultimately, we had 341 students attend out of those 8 workshops that were held both at our Southern and Dobson and Red Mountain campus. And because of that work that we did and the support that we had from our multicultural department, our student life and leadership, our student government, many organizations, and especially our administrators, we were able to be recognized both at the regional and international level as one of the top most distinguished college projects out of the 1,200 chapters. And that I do want to say on a very personal level that engaging in this kind of learning, I was very ignorant to many of these things that we were learning about. We were able to attend the ASU Healing Racism series as a way to learn ourselves, in addition to many very deep and intimate discussions about privilege and the role that we all play in the world, and the discrepancies that exist because of race. It was a phenomenal learning experience, and I am above all grateful for that time that I had to learn about the real social issues that are taking place around us.
In addition to the college project, which is definitely more of a college-based project, making our college better as a whole and affecting those that are going to our college, we have the Honors in Action project, which is a community service-based project. It is based 1,000,000 times on research. We spend the entire summer researching needs within our community, and we have meetings that we go to weekly over the summer break that are an hour and a half just specifically for Honors in Action. We also have an hour and a half for College Project and our executive board, which is an hour and a half. So you have 5-hour meetings once a week during our summer break, and we come up with the need within our community, and then we address that need through service. This year, the Honors in Action team, I'm currently the vice president of Southern and Dobson, but last semester I was the Honors in Action officer, and my committee and I found the need of water accessibility, especially with the drought that's been going on, the severity of the drought in California. It raised a lot of questions for our team. And so we researched that, and we wanted to know what happens when all the water's gone. And we found that water accessibility isn't just something that you find an issue with in third world countries. When you think of people not being able to access water, you think of developing countries that it's hard, and the water sometimes there is poor quality. That's also being found right here in our own back door in Arizona, in the United States, as well as across the world. So our project was about water accessibility and raising the awareness of this issue. The committee and I wrote a couple of different grants, one of which was funded, where we were actually able to bring in a representative from the United Nations to Mesa Community College for a deliberative dialogue workshop, which we worked with a lot of people from the district level on. And we had over 150 people attend this workshop, this one workshop that we ended up having over 190 pledges of people who wanted to make a difference in the future for water conservation, water accessibility, and just wanted to continue on with the work that we were doing there. This project won regional awards for Most Distinguished Project, Honors in Action Project, and Most Distinguished Project in Theme 8, Exploring Political Economics, And so that's what we focused on, was the political economics and the government involvement with water accessibility. And then we went on to win internationally as one of the top 10% of most distinguished projects internationally, as well as the Theme Award. And it was definitely an amazing experience, and hopefully something that will have a lasting impact, especially with all the water crises that are going on right now.
As part of those 2 projects that we mentioned, what Phi Theta Kappa does at an international level is they will take the scores from the college project paper that we submit and the Honors in Action paper that we submit, and they will average them out together, and then that gives you an overall score, which is used to determine your ranking as a chapter internationally. And based upon the 2 projects that we did and the papers that we wrote about those, we were luckily blessed to be recognized as not just one of the top 100 most distinguished chapters, and we were recognized as the 3rd runner-up, the 3rd finalist. And so ultimately, across those 1,200 chapters, we were ranked as the number 4 chapter in the world, which isn't out of the ordinary for Mesa Community College. In the past, we've done fairly well as well, but this year to be able to do it again meant a significant amount. And again, far more than just the awards and being fourth in the world, the experiences that we've each had and the impact that we've been able to make on the students on our campus and our local community.
One of the greatest benefits of joining Phi Theta Kappa is the ability to gain scholarships. A lot of the Phi Theta Kappa awards are based on the service and the projects that you've been involved in. We have over $90 million in scholarships available to students from community colleges that are members of Phi Theta Kappa, 37 million of which are transfer specific. So when we're going from community college to the university, we have $37 million to help support us in that transition. And that is something that no other institution is able to provide. And that's something that is a huge benefit for any student that is trying to move on and become something greater and to better themselves. It's definitely an amazing opportunity for all of us.
To just highlight a couple of those scholarships, Phi Theta Kappa will recognize students who are under 36 credits at the community college level to help them complete their associate's degree. And that's through the partnership with Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola Leaders of Promise Scholarship offers $1,000 to X number of students. 200 students across the nation. And 2 students from Mesa Community College were recognized as Coca-Cola Leaders of Promise. Tyler Oakes and Ryan Gooden each received $1,000 to assist them in completing their associate's degree.
In addition, we also have an amazing scholarship called the All Arizona Academic Team. 3 people from Mesa Community College were named First Team All Arizona, and 1 was named Third Team All Arizona. And each of them gets a free ride tuition waiver to any state university, NAU, U of A, or ASU. And I believe that they also get thousands of more scholarships if they go on even to the international level and become all USA, and there's a lot of more benefits there as well.
So again, highlighting some of those awards and some of the scholarships. We did already go over these. Casey and myself, we served as regional officers for the state of Arizona. And we had an additional officer, Jacob Sorensen, who served for Mesa Community College. He was our public information officer. That was it.
Mesa Community College just celebrated our 50th birthday for our Phi Theta Kappa chapter. It's our 50th anniversary. It just happened, a week ago, on April 15th. In 1966 when we were established, and we had an alumni event where we invited alumni and current officers to come and celebrate that accomplishment with us.
So the most important part of why we're really here today. We've talked a lot about what we've done, what we've been recognized for, but nothing that we have done or would be able to do would be possible without the support of administrators, advisors, faculty members who have taken the time to really take us under their wings and teach us. And as a member of Maricopa Community Colleges and as a student at Mesa Community College, I am very grateful for the support that has been offered to our Phi Theta Kappa chapter through Dr. Pan's leadership, in addition to many phenomenal advisors. Just to close, when I was 16, I dropped out of high school and I never planned to return and get an education. At the age of 24, next week, I'm graduating from Mesa Community College with my associate's degree, something I never wanted to do up until a few years ago, and something that I don't think would have been possible without the support and guidance of Phi Theta Kappa, particularly the advisors and mentors that I found at Mesa Community College. And I worry to think about where I would be without my education. The ignorance that I had just a few months ago compared to the knowledge that I have now is significant. And we want to, on behalf of the Mesa Community College chapter, Phi Theta Kappa, thank you for your support, your guidance, your patience with us students, and your leadership. And then to just wrap it up, I didn't think that my education would be possible, but now I'll be able to attend the University of Arizona next fall, bear down, and complete my undergraduate degree with a full ride scholarship because of my involvement with Phi Theta Kappa. So thank you for your support and your guidance and your assistance.
Congratulations. Thank you all very, very much for that extraordinary presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Burke.
I want to acknowledge Dwayne Oaks, who for a number of years has worked with service learning at Mesa Community College in addition to Phi Theta Kappa. He's an example of employees in this district who have great impact on students, and I think we ought to acknowledge him.
Mr. Oaks, congratulations. Thank you all very, very much. That was very impressive. Paradise Valley Community College.
Thank you, President
Dr.
Gutierrez. Members of the board, Chancellor Harper Marinick, members of CEC, and guests. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Karen Sada, psychology faculty at Paradise Valley Community College, and tonight she'll be focusing more on organizational psych. She and her students will talk about Club Zeitgeist, an innovative club designed to prepare students to be agents of positive social change, an important value at Paradise Valley, and to learn skills needed for the 21st century workplace. Club Z is an example of collaboration among faculty and students and across disciplines with a focus on an entrepreneurial mindset and behavior as students direct their academic learning.
Do you have a longer introduction?
I could lip sync or something.
So, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper Marinick, and members of the Chancellor's Executive Council, as well as all of the guests in the room, thank you for letting us tell you stories from our campus tonight. And I also wanted to thank David Pegram, who is our Club Z advisor on our campus, for being here tonight. And we also have some other supporters in the audience, Carolyn Miller and Mike Mitchell. Thank you for being here. All right, and we are up. Tonight you get to meet Chris, Tirza, Sasha, Ben, Elaine, and Krista. And they represent an industrial and organizational psychology class, but they are also here to represent a club, a set of initiatives, and what we call a movement, Club Zeitgeist. And we like music at Paradise Valley as well. And so and where did it go? Gosh darn it. All right. Nick? Yes. We have online, could you take us to the internet? Actually, while Nick and Chris are pulling that up, I'll give you an introduction to the musical experience that you get to have. I'm going to call it a scholarly rap video, because if you listen to the words of this rap, you'll hear 1,000 peer-reviewed journal articles in educational psychology and industrial organizational coming to the surface in a very fun way. And you'll also notice that my technical assistant, Chris, right here, is the star of the video, but he's the first to tell you that the video is the result of a lot of collaboration and many talents and strengths that came together to create it. Ooh. Listen closely to the words.
When you think of a community college, tell me what comes to mind first. It's a place where you go to obtain knowledge, so sit down, take notes, and do your work. But Paradise Valley takes a different approach. Here you are the focus and your teacher's a coach. Students are encouraged to critically think about what's important as they learn to succeed. Just check out Club Z on the campus, where students get acknowledged for their individual talents, earn an award for demonstrating your passion. Now that's the type of learning that's everlasting, so don't procrastinate, get involved today. Create a project and watch your future change. Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, it's fluid. Club Z is a movement. Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, it's fluid. Club Z is a movement. Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, it's fluid. Club Z is a movement. Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, it's fluid. Club Z is a movement. Now let me tell you a little more about this award, on how you can earn it and what it's good for. You can make a project on just about anything, civic engagement or service learning. You can paint a picture or write a haiku. You trying to plant a garden? Well, that's alright too, so long as you take the time to reflect on how the results demonstrate your success. Is there a benefit? Yes. When discussing your accomplishments at job interviews or applying for scholarships, mention the low means your competencies you consciously use to complete this project for Club Z and watch them be amused. It's all up to you on what you want to pursue. Who said you couldn't learn and have fun too? Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, it's fluid. Club Z is a movement. Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, it's fluid. Club Z is a movement. Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, it's fluid. Club Z is a movement. Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, it's fluid. Club Z is a movement.
And Nick is back. All right. So Zeitgeist, as Chris said in the video, it means the intellectual and spiritual thinking of the times. And one of our taglines with Club Zeitgeist is where creativity and action are always in style. So even if society changes its mind sometimes as time goes by, we believe that creativity and action are always in demand and actually what moves the zeitgeist forward. So with that in mind, we are also proponents of entrepreneurship. And we see entrepreneurship, just like innovation, as having its place in every classroom, regardless of discipline, and in any type of organization. So that is the spirit of our times at PV with Club Zeitgeist. And tonight you get to hear the results of some secondary research that these students have done with regard to entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial behaviors in their real lives and in the world. And I'm going to sit down because this is their research. These are their words, and these are their entrepreneurial insights.
Thank you. This evening we'd like to share with you a story of innovation and entrepreneurship at Paradise Valley Community College. To best illustrate how these experiences have been meaningful to each and every one of us here today, I'd like to begin with my chapter as a first-year student. I started at PV this past fall and really didn't know what to expect. I found that I was well prepared for most of my classes. I listened to lectures, I took notes, and I passed tests. My culture and psychology class with Karen Sada, however, was a little bit uncomfortable. I quickly learned that it was a student-centered classroom with a heavy focus on active learning. We were tasked at the end of the year to create a project that showed how culture and affected an individual's thoughts and behaviors. When we were discussing our ideas with Karen, she informed me a little bit about CESI, the Community College Survey of Student Engagement. And as we researched further, we became inspired to create a video titled You Belong at PVCC, which showed how Paradise Valley culture influenced students' thoughts and behaviors. It was successful, and feeling empowered, I decided to stay for the spring semester as well. So this semester, I've enrolled in honors. I became president of Club Zeitgeist, and I decided to take another class with Karen Sada. So in our industrial and organizational psychology class, we're creating the first draft of Club Z's handbook for entrepreneurial organizations because entrepreneurship is the focus in industrial and organizational psychology today.
When I joined Club Z, it started off as nothing more than an extra credit opportunity until I learned the true meaning behind it. Club Z is an entrepreneurial movement that all community colleges as well as universities should have the chance to experience. We create an environment that allows minds to thrive and reach peaks that seemed almost impossible to even imagine, leading, facilitating, and implementing innovation throughout our community while still focusing on our individual goals as students. Whether it may be to plant a garden or to open up a restaurant, to creating a new app on our smartphones, or to becoming an artist, in Club Z, we motivate students to turn their dreams into a reality, exploring the depths of creativity within their minds. Most of all, we are creative learners, and we are a part of a growing movement here at PVCC to support and encourage our future entrepreneurs.
Young woman, before you leave, could we have your name?
Yes, Tirza.
Tirza, thank you.
Hello, I'm Sasha, and entrepreneurs, simply put, can be defined as people that see any need, and they fill it. Innovators, along similar lines, look at something that people think is boring, and they see something that could be amazing. Lastly, entrepreneurs are people that exhibit entrepreneurial qualities, but work as a small part in a big machine. These ideas are important because according to recent studies, young Americans aren't as interested in entrepreneurship as our parents' generation was 25 years ago. The goal of our movement is to create leaders that exhibit these qualities, not just at PVCC or in Maricopa, but across the United States, and to put this country back at the top of the global landscape. An organization that shares our goal is the National Advisory Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship. In April of 2015, leaders of 4 of America's foremost research universities, including ASU's president, Dr. Michael Crow, penned a letter to then Secretary of Commerce Gary Locke, which detailed an extensive process on entrepreneurship and innovation in higher education. Originally receiving signatures from 142 of the nation's top universities. The letter calls for 5 main focuses: promoting student innovation and entrepreneurship, encouraging faculty innovation and entrepreneurship, actively supporting technology transfer, facilitating university-industry collaboration, and engaging with regional and local economic development efforts. The National Association for Community College Entrepreneurship, known as NACCE, is a member organization of over 300 community colleges that have made a similar commitment to entrepreneurship. I'd quickly like to recognize Dr. Gene Giovannini, who's sitting right there. He's gained national recognition as president of NACCE, as well as president of Maricopa Corporate College, and founder of CEI, which our IO psychology class was fortunate enough to visit. Dr. Sherry Olson, who's an advocate of positive psychology, and the bold leader of South Mountain Community College, who implemented the use of Gallup strengths and strengths-based culture there, which I'm personally a huge fan of. And PVCC's very own president, Dr. Paul Dale, and vice president of academic affairs, Dr. Mary Lou Mosley, who were a vital part in creating our IO psychology class and gave us this amazing opportunity. The process is in place. We know exactly where we want to go and how we want to get there. The thoughts are already in the national discussion and mindset, leaving us only with implementing them into our behaviors. Only then will America reemerge as the foremost producer of leaders who can bring about positive social change. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ben. I will start off by raising a question. Are entrepreneurs born or are they made? This question brings to light an ongoing debate in psychology related to nature versus nurture. Nature states that who we are comes from genetics, while nurture states that who we are is influenced by the world around us. Recent developments in the field have found that both nature and nurture work together to create who we are. While nature can't necessarily be controlled, nurture can help us grow in ways that we've never imagined, as we can influence the environment that fosters entrepreneurial thinking. Entrepreneurial organizations do this by showing a willingness to create change and a consistency in the effort to improve. Entrepreneurial organizations are not afraid to recognize change when it must occur and seek it out in order to influence the world in more positive and more innovative ways. In order to bring about change in this manner, entrepreneurial organizations strive to sustain and protect the creativity of its members, knowing that change doesn't come from just one individual, but from the combined effort of many individuals. Being the largest community college system in the country, the Maricopa County Community Colleges must continue to promote these concepts throughout the organization. The entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs that make up an organization have defining qualities in order to create success. They are agents of change themselves. While they alone may play a small part in the process of change, they make a huge difference in how they motivate those around them. They apply creativity to their endeavors, coming up with new approaches previously not considered. Most importantly, they are risk takers when they need to be, and they are not afraid to fail. Winston Churchill summed this up by saying that success is walking from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. There is an important distinction to make between business entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs. David Bornstein said that what business entrepreneurs are to the economy, social entrepreneurs are to social change. They are driven, creative individuals who question the status quo, exploit new opportunities, refuse to give up, and remake the world for the better. Entrepreneurial leaders are at the forefront of this effort. From business, they are seeking opportunities and maximizing potential, while from industrial organizational psychology, they exhibit great cognitive complexity in their problem solving. They have high levels of social and emotional intelligence, allowing them to form and maintain productive relationships while they persevere through hard times, as they are intrinsically motivated to achieve their vision. From John Adams, if your actions inspire others to dream more, do more, learn more, and become more, you are a leader, and not just a leader, an entrepreneurial leader.
Hello everyone, my name's Elaine. So how does motivation or lack thereof affect the work ethic of entrepreneurs and employees? Well, what makes you get out of bed in the morning? Conventional wisdom tells us that money is a tremendous extrinsic motivator. However, a rewarding and work environment may fulfill our intrinsically motivational needs. Being motivated can be difficult if there's no room for error and no room for creativity. Create a safe environment where employees are not afraid to speak their minds, even if it may fail. This is well demonstrated in our industrial and organizational psychology class at PVCC. We are encouraged to speak as unique individuals and not like classroom robots. Henry Ford is the creator of American-made motor company named Ford. He had failed several times and was broke 5 times before his business became a success, and it's now worth millions. It's probably not uncommon to misuse a monetary reward system within business, but creating a safe environment where there is some type of reward system along with opportunity for voice, that is creating an environment that is using extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, which leads to personal growth and growth within the business.
Hello, my name's Krista, and I'm getting ready to graduate in just a matter of weeks. For some people, this may seem pretty daunting, but for me, I feel powerful and prepared to begin the next chapter of my life due to the classes I took and the experiences I sought out, which have all empowered me to create ideas, inspire positive social change, and support others' academic endeavors and innovations. Every semester, like every good book, has a beginning, middle, and end. Today we heard from Chris as he shared his first chapter as a first-year college student. We heard from Tirza, Elaine, and Ben as they explained some of their experiences throughout their academic careers and what it means to be truly educated in an environment that empowers student-centered learning. And now you've briefly heard from me as I explained how my experiences and skills have prepared me to take the momentous walk across the stage with my graduation tassel representing more than academic achievement as it crosses my cap. You have heard what our story of entrepreneurship and innovation has provided us from beginning to end, and now we will leave you with this. We would like to thank you for your brave commitment to keeping Maricopa relevant with innovative and entrepreneurial approaches as we trust you to prepare us for the dynamic and changing global economy we are about to enter. Thank you.
Thank all of you. That was extraordinary. Chris, you could have rapped the Pledge of Allegiance. And you never told me. You'll have to come back. I expect that you'll be making the presentation next year, and we'll break dance to the pledge. Thank you all very much. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we're going to the Student Public Policy Forum.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick, members of CEC, and guests. I am delighted to introduce to you to the 2015-16 cohort of our Student Public Policy Forum. If I could have the members here stand up and be recognized, please. Since 2001, SPIF has been a program of Maricopa Community Colleges. Currently, it is administered through our Center for Civic Participation in collaboration with Student Life and Academic Affairs. It truly is a team effort. We have support from our Student Life directors as well as 2 faculty advisors, Dr. Brian Dilley from Mesa Community College, Dr. Terry Desai from Glendale Community College. Thank you, Terry, for your work on the program. They are actively engaged citizens. Our goal is to create leaders in our community. And now our SPIFers, as we affectionately call them, are ready to join the ranks of alumni across the country. We still have SPIF alumni working at the state capitol as legislative assistants. We have a few working in DC, and I'll let our students tell you about their year in SPIF.
Hello, and I want to say thank you for giving us the time to explain what SPIF is. My name is Marcos Palacios. I'm from Scottsdale Community College and Mesa Community College. I'm actually a computer science major, so when I first joined SPIF, I didn't know nothing about government. I didn't know what a legislator was. I didn't know how to vote or anything like that until my student life director told me about SPIF. So when I joined SPIF, it's basically Student Public Policy Forum. It's an academic program focused on civic engagement. So it's a full-year program, and the first semester or the fall semester, it's more of an academic program. So it's more like, think of it as boot camp. Like, you start from the beginning and get to learn public policy, how it works, how to network, how to advocate for what you want. And we got the opportunity to have a campus project. Oh, my bad. So I got the opportunity to do a campus project, which is basically showing you the time and the energy and everything, how to set up like school presentations and all that. I did veterans awareness for my for mine, and after all that, you get to actually use it in the spring semester. So you get to actually go to legislators and like talk about public issues and like networking with others. You get to work with the other SPIFers, work as a team, and start like how to say, that's my focus. Just like working together, trying to solve issues. They each have a different point of view, so it was kind of like an experience to me that nobody really gets the opportunity to do. And the benefits that I get out of it. So as I said, I never know about student government or anything like that. I actually am in student government now because of this. I got the Chancellor's Medallion. I'm using it at my school, and I'm going to graduate this year. So I'm hoping to use this experience to U of A. And who are SPIFers? They're basically 12 of us from 5 different campuses that come together with different ideas, different opinions. We work as a team to just make a difference. Yeah.
Good evening, members. My name is Oscar Hernandez. I am from Paradise Valley Community College, and my major is public policy. I'm going to be speaking on some of the session highlights about SPIF. So I would like to start by saying that SPIF granted us the opportunity to meet and network with several local leaders, entrepreneurs, and elected officials. And thanks to these connections, I landed the position of a Senate page, as well as I'm interning at the office of Phoenix City Mayor Greg Stanton. SPIF gave us a unique experience to travel to the state capitol, and we had a tour of the House and Senate building where we actually had the opportunity to sit down with some of our legislators and discuss several issues that are affecting our local communities. And of course, we had the one-of-a-kind opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C., where we had the opportunity to practice several of the various skills that we learn in SPIF, and as well as meeting some of our Arizona representatives and senators, such as Senator Flake. And I would like just to end by saying that I'm very grateful that SPIF is available to all students in the Maricopa colleges, just because I've never been part of a program that's affected my personal and academic life as much as SPIF has.
So thank you so much.
Hi there. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. My name is Sarah Chappelle. I will be graduating this spring from the honors program at Scottsdale Community College with my associates in sociology and transferring this fall to the University of Massachusetts Commonwealth Honors College. Sorry about the technical difficulties today. Essentially, our poster projects are only one of many projects that we have participated in over this year-long academic program. The first of which in the fall semester was a 10-page detailed policy action plan, which really gets into how policy works. It might sound glamorous to be an elected official, but there's certainly a lot of work in getting there, and maybe even more work being a staff member there. We have essentially culminated our year of knowledge with these projects. We talked a little bit, Marcos and Oscar both, about our capstone project going to Washington, D.C., where we actually get to meet in person with legislatures and their staff members and U.S. senators, and really expose them to not only our ideas and our knowledge, but also expose them to community college students as active members of the community and as citizens as well as students. I can say surely that we have learned very much over this year. We have short people problems. We have had many meaningful experiences. We've obviously learned a lot about public speaking, a lot about confidence, in being able to have a face-to-face conversation with a senator elected in the U.S. government, and be in the Capitol during an election year and in the midst of Supreme Court nomination, and be able to sit there and interrupt someone's busy schedule and make them pay attention to you and make them pay attention to the Maricopa County Community College District. And sit there and look them in the eye and discuss the issues that are relevant to Arizonans. Personally, SPIF has been a source of huge personal growth as well as a source of application progress. As I said, I was accepted to quite a few actually really significant universities, and I might not have had the confidence to go after these East Coast schools, let alone be able to interview effectively and actually sell myself to these schools. And a large part of that was the Student Public Policy Forum. And they are impressed and should be impressed with the work that SPIF has done and the work it's done through me. I would like to also say that as far as the community colleges and programs like SPIF really lend the personal development and attention that large universities lack, particularly in the first 2 years of college. We are very underrated, but we are not to be overlooked. We are a very significant part of the population, and we are transferring to in-state and out-of-state universities representing Arizona and our district. It is very important to close the gap between elected officials and their accomplishments and what is possible for young students. And so I would like to thank you, all of you, our governing board members, our college presidents, and Dr. Maria for really continuing to support the civic minds of the future. And we thank you for your investment in us and promise to return on that gift. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Dr. Saar says you can go home and study now. But it sounds like you've done a lot of that. You've got some extraordinary futures ahead of you, and I can see why. This was an articulate, really smart presentation. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Faculty Executive Council report. Ms. Bednarik. President Bednarik, before you go forward, let me make an announcement at this point. I will reiterate it at the end of the meeting where it is scheduled to be announced, but I wanted everybody to be sure that they knew it. There had been an executive session posted for tomorrow. It will not take place. It is canceled. The executive session for Thursday, however, will in fact take place. It is posted. It is regarding the finalizing the chancellor's search. With that, Ms. President Bednarik.
Thank you. President Gutierrez, members of the board, Interim Chancellor Harper-Marinick, members of the CEC, and guests. It is my pleasure to stand before you tonight in my final address as the Faculty Association President. On Tuesday, April 12th, the Faculty Executive Council elected Mr. Mike Mitchell, English faculty at the Paradise Valley Community College, to be the next president-elect for the Faculty Association. On May 10th, Dr. Robert Souza will assume the role of our Faculty Association president, and I cannot think of a better duo to lead Maricopa's faculty into the next phase. I would like to take a moment to publicly thank Mr. Keith Hefner for all his work and dedication. Keith has been instrumental in our institution's progress in shared governance and improving the communication within our district. Keith has been a mentor and a dear friend of mine, and I'm eternally grateful for his prior leadership and paving the way. Thank you, Keith.
You're very welcome.
Having served as the Faculty Association president this past year, I've had the privilege to observe the wonderful and honorable work that faculty, staff, and administration perform day in and day out to continue Maricopa's legacy as an exemplary community college. All throughout the district, we have incredible employees dedicated to our mission, and we all share a commitment to student learning and student success. It has been my pleasure to work with each of you governing board members this past year. You have an incredible responsibility. As elected officials, you have the fiduciary responsibility to make difficult decisions that set the strategic direction for our district. We rely on you to be ethical, knowledgeable, and responsible, and to work in the best interest of the students we serve. Maricopa is a great institution, and it needs your support. If we are to be an extraordinary institution, the kind of extraordinary institution I believe we all want it to be, we need you, governing board members of Maricopa, to work together and in concert with our next chancellor. We need the focus to be student learning and access to education. Our business and industry partners are counting on us to produce skilled graduates ready to enter the workforce to move the needle further on the already large economic impact we have on our state. I urge you to help us further our mission. Thank you, and it has been an honor to serve.
Thank you. Mr. Burke.
I want to thank Ms. Bednarik for her leadership this year. It's been a pleasure working with you. And she pointed out the new chair-elect, and the incoming president is an English faculty, as will the next one be. So the board can look forward to 2 very poetic years.
I would like to also say that it took me a year to learn to pronounce your name. I have been calling you Benderik. It is Bednarik. That's confusing enough. Thank you very much for some wonderful service this past year, and through a very a difficult time that we've gone through, and we've depended on you throughout that period. So thank you.
I would like to thank Ms. Bednarik as well. I've enjoyed our many talks, and also I've enjoyed getting to know Keith and Robert, and we've had these breakfast meetings, and I think we've solved some problems. And I look forward to seeing you in the future, and I know you'll still be around for a while. And so, anyway, thank you for everything.
I'll
Mr.
chime in as well. I look forward to seeing you back in the classroom, I'm assuming. Our nursing program is going to continue to be as excellent as it ever was on your campus and others. But I think the experience that you got this year, I hope takes and goes back into the classroom with your students. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bednarik. Mr. Leo Valverde, Adjunct Faculty Report.
Mr. President, members of the board, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, members of the CEC, guests, my name is Leo Valverde. I'm president of the Adjunct Faculty Association. I'm sorry to report that I don't have a PowerPoint or a song or a dance for you tonight. I think I can probably pull a quote out in the end, and we'll see, but I would like to briefly report on some of the activities of the Adjunct Faculty Association recently. We are very proud to once again this year sponsor 2 participants to the Maricopa Excellence in Teaching Conference later this summer in conjunction or in participation with MCLI for the funding. We also recently announced our outstanding adjunct faculty recipients. I'm very proud to say that all 10 colleges are represented, some with multiple designees, and all of you are invited to the ceremony this Thursday at Rio. I believe it starts at 5:30. The food is free. The friendship is also free. I'd also like to report that we are in the final stages of releasing or preparing to release our survey of adjunct faculty. And just 3 points that I'd like to highlight to everyone before it's released to everyone is that adjunct faculty as a whole feel very proud to be associated and to teach within the district. They do, however, feel a little bit of isolation and to a lesser degree some exclusion. However, the key point here is that despite those things, they are also very, very willing to be more involved outside of the classroom. What this means is we have a wellspring of individuals who are willing and wanting to help. And here's the quote that I'll say, like my man, the Buddha said, no matter where you go, there you are.
Actually, Buckaroo Banzai said that, not the Buddha.
You're the only person that's ever gotten that reference other than the Buddha, but
one of these days we'll trade a few things. Thank you. I do not have a request from any other employee and constituency groups. Is that correct? Hearing no request. I do not have any request for citizens interim. Is that correct, Miss? So we have not. We will skip over citizen, and we will go to action items. Chancellor's report. Almost forgot the chancellor. Can you imagine that?
How could you?
I should resign.
Thank
On
you,
the spot.
Mr. Gutierrez and members of the board. As we close one more academic year, I would like to thank the college presidents, the staff, and the faculty and the adjunct faculty, Leo, for all that you do to provide a safe environment, an inclusive environment for our students to learn. And I think a demonstration of that is the students that spoke tonight. So this is the time for celebration. We have many convocations and graduations coming up. So I hope you take the time, board members, to come to those events and support our students. And then I have a few other announcements, if I may. I think as everyone knows that we conducted a national search to select a new CEO for the Maricopa Foundation. And I am very pleased to present to you tonight the new CEO of the Maricopa Foundation, Ms. Christina Schultz. Can you wave, Christina? Thank you. And let me tell you a little bit about her. She served for 9 years as the Vice President of Institutional Advancement with the Dixie State University. She was responsible for leading several significant areas, including fundraising, alumni relations, public relations, community outreach, marketing, and cultural arts initiatives. During her time, she achieved a number of impressive accomplishments, including the launch of a $100 million infrastructure fundraising campaign. Prior to tenure with the Dixie State University, she was the Director of Development at the Southern California Institute of Architecture, the Richard and Karen Carpenter Performing Arts Center at California State University and the University of Southern California. So we are extremely pleased that she accepted our invitation to become part of the Maricopa family. Welcome, Christina. I would also like to share less happy news, and that is that our dear colleague, Dr. Sean Pan, who has served as the president of Mesa Community College and has provided outstanding leadership, is moving to Seattle to become the new chancellor of the Seattle Community College system. It is a great system, and they couldn't be more gifted than to receive Dr. Pan as their new leader. So I thank you for your service to Maricopa, all that you have done to support our students, and I certainly will miss you, Sean. And last but not least, I also would like to thank Selena for her outstanding service as the president of the faculty this last year. It was a pleasure to work with you. You were very open to collaboration and tackling some of the hard issues that we needed to address as a system. So I appreciate that. And Robert, look forward to working with you, and welcome to the group, to Mac. Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. That's my report.
Chancellor, at this point, would you like to introduce Ryan DeMena, or do you want to hold that
I'm sorry, I forgot about Ryan. Where is Ryan? Oh, thank you. Yes, that's the last part of my report, is to provide the legislative update, which tonight will be presented to you by Mr. Ryan DeMena.
Thank you very much. President Gutierrez, members of the board, Interim Chancellor Harper Marinick, members of CEC, and all others present. Before I dive into the legislative update, I just thought it was worth noting that I've had the pleasure of working with Deanna in coordinating the SPIF tours of the state capitol. It's a lot of fun. This year they actually got to vote on the floor of the House on a measure that would ban texting while driving. So it was interesting to see the debate and the way that the vote played out there. But it's also extremely rewarding to see these students end up as legislative assistants, pages. This program, it's a wonderful program. So having said that, I'm here to provide you with your brief legislative update. Today marks the 107th day of the 52nd Legislature's second regular session. This year, a total of 1,219 pieces of legislation and 112 memorials and resolutions have been introduced. To date, 106 bills have been passed, and 105 of those bills have been signed by Governor Ducey. Only one bill has been met with a veto. In my last update, I was happy to report that the Community College's expenditure limitation legislation, Senate Bill 1322, received the approval of the House Government and Higher Education Committee. At this hearing, we were pleased to have Interim Chancellor Harper Marinick, Ms. Haver, and Mr. Saar in attendance. And the day before my last update, the House of Representatives passed Senate Bill 1322 by a vote of 39 ayes, 18 ayes, and 3 not voting. I am now very pleased to report that the governor has signed Senate Bill 1322 into law on March 24th, 2016. That legislation is now Laws 2016, Chapter 58. I want to take a moment to thank everyone involved in this effort, and to thank you for the support we receive from everyone we work with at the district. The success of this legislation is the result of our coordinated team efforts. In my previous update, I also mentioned legislation introduced by Representatives Anthony Kern and Paul Boyer, attempting to address free speech on university and community college campuses. The Boyer legislation is currently awaiting a third read vote in the Senate, while the Kern bill is awaiting a final vote in the House. I also mentioned the perennial issue of guns on campus legislation. This year there are roughly 10 of these bills. The debate this year is focused on House Bill 2338. As introduced, House Bill 2338 would prohibit the governing board of an educational institution from banning the possession of a concealed weapon in the person's vehicle on a right-of-way. This bill was amended, however, to exclude property of an educational institution and is now awaiting a third read vote in the Senate. It is certainly worth noting that legislative leadership has reached an agreement on the broad strokes of the fiscal year 2017 state budget. The budget proposal is being reviewed in small group meetings with other lawmakers, and when I arrived, my comments said that budget bills have yet to be introduced. In the course of this meeting, the Senate has late introduced budget bills, and we believe that they will go to a hearing in the Appropriations Committee at some point tomorrow afternoon. So we are truly working in real time. With that, I will be sure to provide you with additional updates as the session progresses, for as long as that may be. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, the bill that has to do with free speech. I read there was an amendment, but I couldn't find exactly what that amendment was. What exactly are the rules on this?
President Gutierrez, Ms. Haver, it's my understanding that the free speech legislation effectively gives a student a private right of action if they feel that their free speech rights have been violated. It's also my understanding that district policy in this area is being reviewed. So I believe that the legislation at the end of the day may not necessarily have an impact because our policies will cover free speech. The amendment that was adopted is Senator Kavanaugh's answer to what occurred with the Donald Trump rally in his district where the freeway was blocked. It's arguably it's an unrelated amendment to the bill, but that was the change in the Senate.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr. Rivera, thank you very, very much, and thank your firm. You've done some pretty extraordinary work here. On the gun bill, the adopted amendment essentially takes us out of that picture. On the free speech bill, I think you've reached a terrific amendment.
Thank you,
and
sir.
obviously, in 1322, I think that that may well be part of our solution to our current and future problems. So, you guys have done great work. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very much appreciate it.
We now move to Chancellor. Before I go on, that completes your report.
Yes, Mr. Gutierrez, thank you.
We now move to the approval of the order of the agenda.
I move approval.
Second. Any discussion? If not, it passes without opposition, without objection. And we'll go to the consent agenda.
I move approval.
Is there a second?
A second.
If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is adopted. We will go to action items, beginning with 10.1, approve the minutes of March 8th. This is part of 14. Thank you very much. It's very confusing. We're going to change this. Item 14, business services. Approve the conceptual approval of the BP building offices at Mesa Community College. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is an award for slightly over $563,000, and it will result in some upgrades to a building that's over 30 years old and still has most of its original finishes. This includes replacing or upgrading flooring, ceiling grid, repainting, replacing door and hardware, and some interior windows may be added at some point if feasible and within the budget, and we recommend its approval.
You've heard the description. Are there any questions?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It is moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 14.2, approve job order contracting purchase. Refreshing project, Mesa Community College. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. President, members of the board, this building also is over 30 years old, and there's a series of work that's needed, including some demolition, some new wall framing, drywall insulation, installing new ceiling, electrical lighting, window frames, and smoke detectors, fire alarm strobes, and sprinklers, and we recommend its approval.
You've heard the description. Is there any discussion?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
I second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 14.3. Purchase order for mechanical and electrical work for the new KBAQ Jazz and ITS UPS system. That's a lot of letters there. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is a Rio Salado project, and it is to install a uninterruptible power system, UPS, that will help will replace the 14-year-old system that's becoming increasingly unreliable, which you can imagine is very difficult to run radio stations and IT systems with that. So,
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 14.4, purchase orders for HVAC upgrades at Phoenix College. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. President, members of the board, Phoenix College needs to replace or repair some obsolete HVAC equipment on its main campus. This includes the Osborne West building, the B building computer lab, and the central plant, and it will result in greater control, efficiency, and energy savings for the college.
You've heard the description. Are there any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 14.5. Energy Management System upgrades, Phoenix College. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is for the replacement of a 20-year-old or more than 20-year-old energy management system that's obsolete and no longer supported, and it will be replaced in several buildings on the campus as well as the Osborne site.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second? Any comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 14.6, approve conceptual approval for the C building at Phoenix College. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. President, members of the board, this remodeling will transform a 3-story, almost 44,000 square foot general studies, science, and occupational educational facility that was built in 1969 into a modern teaching facility for chemistry and physical sciences that will contain classrooms, lab areas, support, and office space, all needed to provide a wide and expanding range of physical science instruction.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 14.7, approval of network hardware replacement, PVCC. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. President, members of the board, this equipment that will be replaced was purchased in 2005 and is over 10 years old and is in need of replacement, and we recommend the award of the contract.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
So move.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Information items, human resources, 15.1. Vice Chancellor Shelton Johnson.
Thank you, President Gutierrez, and good evening, members of the board. For the employment numbers for the month of March, we had a total number of new hires, 24, and a total number of separations of 21.
Are there any questions? If not, monitoring reports, 16.1, Vice Chancellor Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, the first monitoring report is the budget analysis report, and it's for the first 9 months of the fiscal year. This is for the general unrestricted fund, and it reports on expenditure actuals as well as revenue actuals, comparing them to budget and to prior year activity. It is very similar to prior year months. It's very similar to what we would expect in terms of the patterns of spending that is very regular because payroll and benefits are every 2 weeks and revenues come in periodic cycles, especially property taxes that come in bulk in 4 months of the fiscal year. So everything is on course.
Is there any questions, comments? If not, 16.2, general obligation bonds. Vice Chancellor.
Members of the board, and President Gutierrez, this is our report on our general obligation bonds that were authorized by the voters in 2004. It's as of March 31, 2016. We have issued those proceeds and are spending them down. There's $75.1 million that's available. However, while it's not encumbered or it's not being expended at the moment, there are plans for all of those funds, and we will be spending those funds down within probably the next year or so, I would expect. And as we have indicated, we're looking to refund some of these bonds and save some debt service, which would save property owners in taxes.
Thank you. Community linkage. Governing board reports. Mr. Burke.
Mr. Chairman, this past month, I was pleased to attend the groundbreaking event of the Hope College Academy at South Mountain Community College. A number of community persons attended, including Mayor Greg Stanton, city council members, legislators, and business representatives. We sponsor the charter school in cooperation with the Office of the County Superintendent of Schools to enroll disadvantaged youth. With Mr. Saar and Mr. Heap, I attended the Association of Governing Board Conference in Maryland, where the district received an award for innovation. In addition, I attended the meeting of the Maricopa Retirees Association, which holds an annual meeting for prospective retirees, and it's a room full of people every year. Last Thursday, I attended the annual Heroes of Education dinner where J. Doug Pruitt received this year's award. He gave a moving speech about career and technical education, and I left appreciating his support of our efforts and of his influence in the community to support what we do. This morning, 5 of us visited with the Higher Learning Commission representatives at Phoenix College, which is undergoing an accreditation review.
Mr. Saar.
We've been to more events than I can remember in the last month, but certainly we're getting ready for a more enjoyable part of this year when we start visiting with graduating students and different organizations that celebrate the success of our students. And I look forward to those, as well as completing the process of putting in place a new chancellor for the district.
Ms. Haber.
I attended the same meetings pretty much. One that wasn't mentioned was the Artists of Promise. That was quite amazing. We have a lot of talented young people, and they were able to demonstrate that at the Herberger Theater. And so I was happy to be there.
Mr. Heap.
Mr. Czar and Doyle, I'm going to also say that we probably had more meetings this month than we probably had probably the year before. Enough has been said, and I want to say thank you. But on a broad scale, but one note: we went to Washington D.C. and the Governing Boards Association. I'm going to say that we, as a community college, are not only keeping stride with the four-year colleges and questions and answers and goals, we're ahead of them in a lot of ways. And nationally, we are in good position. So thank you for all your thoughts and questions and answers and supports and meeting all the goals and efforts. We are doing very well. Thank you.
Ms. McGrath.
Thank you, President Gutierrez. I've attended many wonderful events. This past Thursday, I was able to attend, along with Mr. Heap, the 20th anniversary celebration of transfers. This was especially meaningful for me because while I was in the legislature, our constituents complained to us that their students were not getting credit for the credits they'd earned at the community college when they transferred into one of our 3 state universities. So we drafted a bill and said to the universities, you will accept these credits. And we said to the community colleges, you will get your classes up to the par that is acceptable to the universities. This was a wonderful dinner, well attended. We received a gorgeous keychain in commemoration. However, on February 25th, I attended the Phoenix College Alumni Fundraiser, which was held here in Phoenix. It was absolutely wonderful. Mayor Stanton attended. He was an alum of Phoenix College. Our retiring chief of police of Phoenix attended. He was an outstanding student athlete and a member of the student body at Phoenix College. One of my classmates from high school was one of the organizers of it, Genevieve Martin Kreiner. She was a professional softball player and has taken her skills on to being a very active member of the Alumni Association. But the most outstanding part of the evening was I got to have my picture taken with President Haynes, Bumstead Bear, and myself. And fortunately, they sent me a copy of it, and I have it right up here, and I'm very proud of that. And I want to thank President Haynes for making it my month. Thank you.
Thank you, and Bumstead Bear, too. I have been, frankly, exceedingly sort of busy in trying to put this search process together and moving it forward. I want to thank all of the members of the board. We have had a great number of special meetings. In order to accomplish that, we have yet 2 more special meetings in order to arrive at a final decision. It has taken up a huge amount of time. And so I want to thank each of the members of the board for their service, for their diligence, and as we move through this process. We had the incredible, extraordinary help of a search committee that is without is beyond. I mean, beyond the norm. Included some of the major business figures in this state. It included the president of Northern Arizona University. It was co-chaired by the president of our faculty association, who we've met earlier, Selena Bednarik, and Dr. Michael Crow. That process is about to be completed, and we are very grateful. That's my report. I have one more thing to add. My niece is on the softball team at Phoenix College, and they have too many games. Just plain too many games. We've got to talk to President Haynes about that schedule, because I'm spending all my Saturdays But anyway, be that as it may, if there is no further business, I will now go for other reports.
Point of personal privilege.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to ask Dr. Olson if I could be the agent for the staff dance team.
I'd like to say
Ms. Aver.
I would like to thank Mr. Gutierrez for his tremendous leadership through this process of selecting a chancellor, and also the help that was offered and given by Mr. Saar. I've just been so impressed with how this whole thing has worked out, and the process has been really exactly right. Thanks to Mr. Saar, Mr. Gutierrez, we really had a tremendous committee involved with this. And so anyway, I think we're on the right track, and that's great for all of us.
External community reports. Mr. Burke, Arizona Association of District Governing Boards.
The AADGB meets Friday, May 6th here at the district office. We will elect officers for 2016-17 and finalize plans for the Governance Institute for Student Success, which will be held September 8 and 9 here in the Valley.
Arizona School Board Association, Mr. Saar.
Just to note that the election has started for Proposition 123, which the ASBA has endorsed, and the final election date is May 17th, and we'll know how that particular piece of legislation follows through at that point.
19.3, Association of Community College Trustees, Mr. Saar.
Nothing to report. We're getting ready for awards, and I think the board needs to sit down and determine if we're eligible for any of the numerous awards that the ACCT offers. We've been recipients of many of those in past years, and I think we have the ability to do so again this year.
Thank you. The next meeting dates, the special executive session on Thursday, April 28th, 5:30 p.m. May 4th, special board meeting here in the governing boardroom. May 10th, policy committee at 5:30, agenda review at 6:30, a work session at 7:30 in the same date. May 17th, budget and finance committee meeting at the governing boardroom, and a special meeting in charter high schools later that evening at 6:30, and then a regular board meeting thereafter. If there is no further business before the board, the meeting is adjourned.